The best music for hard-working people. Get the job done with Radio.
And now your featured presentation.
Hey there, rockers! Welcome to Bands, the Good, Bad, and the Ugly with Dr. Dog on the show where we get real about the ups and downs of band life. Your host, Dr. Dog, is locked and loaded. So let's do this.
Dr. Dog here, welcoming you to Bands, the Good, bad, and the ugly, bringing you the ins and outs, ups and downs of band life. So let's get to it. Let's rock and roll.
The song you just heard was Somebody Love Me by the Petal Falls. And the doctor's guest tonight is Keith of the Petal Falls. Keith, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Doc. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great.
Excellent. That's two of us then.
That's great. That's great to hear. It's always good. So, Keith, tell us a little bit about yourself and Petal Falls.
Okay, so the Petal Falls are not a new band. They were originally formed in the mid to late 90s, and I put them together with a group of friends to be really a vehicle for the music that I was writing at that time. And we did the usual things that bands do. We went around, we played gigs, and we got a little bit of a following. We got involved with a management company, and pretty soon we were getting pushed to labels and publishers, etc., etc. And we ended up with signing a 5-year deal. About 95, something like that.
That's great.
And of course, I think every artist, when they sign, and it was a good sized company as well, we were thinking, right, that's it, we're off. Unfortunately, that's not what really happened. We ended up producing loads and loads of music, writing loads of music, recording loads of music, and none of that music ever being released. And we got really frustrated about it. Very, very frustrating. I think in the end, after like 4 or 5 years we were together doing it, because we were contracted to it, it eventually just split the band up, really. So it was a frustrating thing, but later looking back on it, it was, people don't understand that record companies are devious, and they will put their money into a brand, and that can be, the Banana Band, say, yeah. And if the Orange Band comes along, yeah, and they may be better, they may have a better sounding music, but the problem is they've already put all their money into the Banana Band, yeah. So what they do is the sort of thing happens to us. They bought us up and then they sat on us and squashed us. So you ended up, you weren't any competition anymore. And a lot of bands in the 80s and 90s, a lot of that was happening to some really good musicians and some really good bands who were basically just signed up to contracts and then just sent away in a corner to die somewhere, which is pretty much what happened to us. And our band eventually split up. So, and that was pretty, and I came away with a really bad taste in my mouth. I mean, and I'd actually signed over my music, so it was all tied up legally. I couldn't do anything with it. And I pretty much walked away from it. And then about 6 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I got contacted by the PRS, the Performing Rights Society in the UK, to say that it was just a brief message to say that all of my publishing had been returned to me, and the reason was that the company that owned the publishing had actually gone under. So the rights reverted to the original writers, which was a stroke of luck. I was then faced with the thing that we had all this music, some of it finished, some of it not finished, some of it part recorded. What do I do with it? So I really didn't know what to do with it. And at that time, unfortunately, my mother was very ill and she died.
I'm sorry to hear that.
A friend of hers, a friend of my mother's, we were very close, and her son was my very first drummer, and that was a guy called John King. And when we were kids, 17, 18, we went out playing together down pubs and clubs and all the things you want to do, cover songs and all that sort of stuff, really cool stuff. And and she put me back in contact. We'd lost contact over the years, and we put back in contact. And John left left the band we were together in because he wanted to go into recording, and he eventually became a very, very, very good engineer. And he's recorded people like Clapton and
oh, that's great.
The Stones. He's really done. He's worked in the same studios as them. He's been on their recordings, and he's got a lot of friends in the business and stuff. Anyway, we contacted, and he just mentioned to me. He said, "Oh, I had a bit of a rough time. Can I have a listen to some of the stuff when we get to him?" So I sent it to him, and maybe about a month later or something. Didn't think nothing of it, and he came back to me and said to me, "You are mad. Why are you not doing anything with this music? Why have you not just get it out there?" And I said, "Well, there's a lot of technical problems with it." He said, "Well, that's right. We'll sort that out." And that was sort of the start of the journey. And we started piecing together all the music again, re-recording stuff, putting normal guitars in, adding this, adding keyboards. We just remastered loads of the music. Because it was never, some of it was finished, as I said, and some of it wasn't. So, and then we got to a stage where we thought, what are we going to do with it now? So we released it, and the rest, as they say, is history. It's a bit weird, really, because the music, not all the music, but a lot of the music is recorded way back when, but because it's been remastered digitally, and there's a lot of new stuff been added to it, stuff like that, it sounds quite modern. It can't sound very modern, actually, but it's got that 80s feel, 90s feel to it,
yes.
Which people have picked up on.
Yes.
And I think it's caught people by surprise because there aren't many people out there now writing that type of music.
Nope. And that's the best music.
In my opinion, it is, and your opinion, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Spotify would say differently, but anyway.
We don't want to get into Spotify because that can be a sore subject at that time. But I can just say the doctor, and I know others are really grateful that you did continue. You did bring it back out. Yeah. Well, no, it's great music, and I mean, like you were saying, great music is lacking, I think, and I always look at it, and if you really look back in history, the errors tend to repeat themselves with clothing, music, everything. It always comes back around again. And I think it's the 80s and the 90s sound that is actually coming back, and people are appreciating it because it's such good music.
I think the 80s in particular were very innovative.
Yes.
And created a lot of what people were hearing now in music, and there's some really great stars from that period. And I tend to think that like you that music goes in cycles.
Yes.
And when we were playing, one of the things that when we go back to the 90s, it was very, very difficult for guitar-based bands playing original music to actually get heard.
Yes.
Everybody wanted boy bands.
Yes.
No one really wanted hardish edged, adult rock. It was on a downward spiral. And now, strangely enough, everybody looks, the only place people, there's only people like, I suppose, if you think Bon Jovi, who popped up in the 80s, Springsteen had although he started in the late 70s, he really had his forte during that 80s, 90s period. Those were the type of people that were around at the time, but they were very, very, it was very controlled. As I said before, the market, particularly for record companies, they didn't want competition. So they weren't like there is now. I mean, there's 8 million artists on Spotify.
Yeah.
8 million.
I know. Isn't that mind-blowing? I mean,
it's a mind-blowing. Here's another mind-blowing statistic, which I didn't find out. We were talking about it some time ago, weren't we? About Spotify and its madness.
Yes.
But out of that 8 million, 80% of them have less than 50 followers.
Yes. Yep.
and less than 50 listeners.
Yes.
Out of that, that's 80% of 8 million. That's an awful lot of music that's not really being listened to. I mean, 100,000 tracks a day being uploaded onto Spotify it's bewildering, and it's very difficult. You know, it's very nice to see, which is one of the things I sort of am quite grateful for, because when I restarted the project, and I brought the Petal Falls back to life, we had no one following us, so no one was listening to us, which is fair enough.
Right. And
here we are 3 years later, after the sort of the launch, and we're something like 12K of people listening. There's a couple of thousand on Spotify, and it's from nothing. So it just shows you that social media and platforms like Spotify do actually allow new music to be heard, but it's so competitive, and it's so difficult to get through that market because there's so much of it. So more power to People's Elbow, who actually make a living out of this at the moment, because it's a very difficult industry to be in at the moment, I think.
Well, it is. And speaking of that, of Spotify and other platforms, what do you see that the social media has played in the role of your music and getting you connected with your followers and the listeners and the fans that you have now? How big of a role did it play?
Massive, actually. I was a bit dismissive of social media. Facebook friends. Oh yeah. But we've all heard that, and but I think that the reality of it is that you have to be aware of where your music is likely to be listened to. And what I found was that I had to change tact with the way, because rock music in the UK isn't massively popular. And in fact, rock music across the genre in Spotify is only 17% of the whole market. So if you get any kind of traction in that 17%, which actually covers every genre of rock as well.
Right.
So I like to think that the Petal Falls type of music is more of a AOR hardish rock edge, but it isn't as hard as Blackstone Cherry, say, for instance. It's not that. It's not got that hard edge to it. But it's if you can get any kind of traction in the main Western markets, then you're really, really doing well. What we did was we re-looked at where we were going. We started pushing our music to places like South America, which is massive. They've got a massive rock market out there, and Eastern Europe, which again, because they're not fully integrated into, or they're not fully aligned with what the West does, they want to go, they do their own thing. It's a huge market in Germany as well. But the States is still quite a big market, but to me, it is places like Brazil, Argentina, all those. I mean, Brazil is 300 million people.
Right.
It's a massive market. So we started pushing our music towards or out to those outlets, like Brazilian radio stations, Argentinian radio stations, Mexican radio stations. Mexico, we've got a good amount of people listen to it in Mexico. So I mean, still one of the biggest rock concerts of all time was the one in Buenos Aires, the Queen.
Yes.
There something like 500,000 people turned up. It was just absolutely crazy. They couldn't get enough people in. They just ended up knocking the fences down so they could hear it.
Right.
It was absolutely nuts.
Right.
But the thing is where the UK and Europe and America is more prone to trends. Countries that are poorer, more traditional, are less trend. They're less impressed by trends. So what they do is if they find something they like, they just stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Rock music has never died in Mexico.
No.
like it did in Europe during the late 90s and early noughties. Yeah.
Yep.
It never died.
Nope.
That's why people like Springsteen and Bryan Adams and people, these huge rock stars, went to Mexico and South America to do their shows, Japan, you know, that it never died there.
No.
But it did. But they were struggling to get it to be heard because the trends changed. People at the top of record companies changed. They become younger. It isn't their thing. And that's, you know, that's all part of a natural organic growth. But it's nice to see that a lot of bands, a lot of guitar-based rock bands, you know, are now beginning to make a little bit of an impact.
Yes.
It's very encouraging, actually. I think the live scene now is far better than I've seen it certainly when I was playing.
Yes.
The live scene, it was a real struggle to get people to listen to, or not so much people to listen to. People are always willing to listen to new music. It's getting venues willing to put the shows and allow the bands to play. That's radically changed now. I think if you go in most big countries in the world, most cities in the world, there are rakes and rakes of venues that will allow bands to play their own music.
Yes. Yes.
And they'll get paid for it, etc. And, you know, and they'll build a following up. So that's all good stuff, and that's all come from a basis of social media, because these bands are allowed to go onto social media, tell people where they're going to be. That, you know, the advertising, if you go back to the 90s, was a poster on a wall, and if you happen to see it, you happen to see it, and if you didn't, you didn't.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
Now you can contact people, and it comes up on their phone, and you know, and it comes up on their tablet or on their computer.
Yes.
So the access to social media is revolutionary, really, for being able to reach out to an audience that possibly would never have known you were there in the first place.
No, I agree with that 100%. And you know, a lot of people get obsessed with the social aspect and the platforms. And speaking of being obsessed, here's a great song called Obsession from the Petal Falls.
If I knew you would be there.
That's a great song. I love that 80s and 90s sound with that edge of that rock to it. It's just phenomenal music. I've been in the industry since the 70s, and 80s and 90s were definitely my time of music. It was just great stuff. So tell us, Keith, about some of the key lessons that you've learned, because already through the interview you've talked, especially at the beginning, about being squashed and smashed and put on the shelf, and the band end up breaking up basically just due to the fact that we've got all this music, we're not doing anything with it because the company's not doing with it. So what are some of the key lessons that you've learned through your journey that you wish that somebody had told you, which wasn't going to happen at the very beginning because nobody knew then? What did you wish somebody had told you when you first started about your journey that you've taken?
Well, the biggest thing, I think, would have been for someone to say, slow down, take your time, don't rush into this. If you don't sign a contract tomorrow, so what?
Yes.
There is such a rush when a big company comes to you and says, we want you to sign on a dotted line. We want you. And it's such a rush. It's such an ego booster.
Yes.
I think you get easily swept up in it. And I made mistakes. We all made mistakes when we signed the contract and didn't realise literally what it would mean. And now I think the key lesson I'm very wary of people who come up to me and want you to sign a piece of paper, because it's not a one-way deal. And unfortunately, there are some unscrupulous people out in the world these days who will take advantage of bands and try to ride that. Oh, this is a wonderful look. We're going to expose you to the world. The reality is that there's a lot of business side that you need to sit down and talk to these people about margins, about budgets. So, one of the things you would turn around now, I would be turning around and saying to a record company, so how much money are you going to put into the first single and the promotion for the first single? Where are you going to promote it? What countries are you going to promote it? Is there going to be any live performances linked to this? And when the album comes out, what sort of tour are we going to do? Is it going to be just a small tour, soft tour? Is it going to be a big tour? Have you got the money in place for that? Because, unfortunately, the record business is driven by profit and driven by money, and the basis of everything that you do when you sit down with one of these companies has got to be business orientated. Because if you go in there just thinking, it's going to make me a star, well, you still want being a star, but if you don't have enough money to buy a can of beans, then
yeah, I know.
There's no point in being a star, is there really?
No,
So,
and that's the thing, is that people think, and sometimes you think, the question I was going to ask you real quick, and I hope all the bands and artists out there are listening. When you guys signed that contract, Keith, how old were you?
I was, I think about 25, 26, something like that. I think it was about 25. I might have been a bit older, actually. I might have been closing up to 30. But anyway, but the rest of the band were in their 20s as well. Yeah. I think I was the oldest guy there, but it was so easy to get swept up in the whole thing, and it was a different era as well.
Right.
Because the only route in was by signing those contracts.
Yes.
There wasn't another way. I mean, the other way now is exactly what we're doing now, is actually releasing the music on our own. And you know what? If a record company or a manager or a promoter comes up to me, then I'll talk to them. I have no problem talking to them, but it has to be on an even keel.
Yes.
I appreciate that they have to make money, but I have to make money, and we have to be able to work together to make it not only profitable for both of us, but at the same time, we need to be able to take that music and put it in front of people in a way that they can afford to come and see it. They can afford to come and listen to it. And I think, at the moment, the industry is it's very closed at the moment. Whilst it's great that you could write a song tomorrow and then think, oh, I'll put it up on Spotify, and you can go and do that.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I've just said to you just a moment ago, 80% of that 8 million artists, less than 50 people are listening to them. So there's a huge volume of music. It's just going up and just being wasted, really. But at the same time, the record companies and Spotify keep the real big access to themselves.
Yes.
So you don't have the access to be able to reach millions of playlists. You know, the record companies do. Spotify restricts the access of independent artists to be able to do that. In a very I mean, it's only recently they've started to open a couple of things up to artists on Spotify. But as I say, it really is a case of social media riding to the rescue, because if you don't get it out there and tell them it's on Spotify, and that's where all of our stuff has come from. It hasn't come from the good graces of Spotify. Our stuff has come from coming to stations like MM Radio and and doing interviews with people like yourself, and asking you to play our music, and you very kindly said, yeah, we love it, we'll put it on. And I know that we're not the only band. You do it for hundreds of bands throughout the year, which is brilliant. I think that's absolutely fantastic, and I think there's more and more stations should be given the credit for what they're actually doing, because you guys are actually bringing raw grassroots music, with new bands to more and more people. And I wish people would just get on board with it. I think the other thing that you guys do, and you probably don't do, you probably do this consciously, or maybe not consciously, I don't know, but you act as curators. So you might have 20 tracks, but 6 of them are rubbish. So you automatically curate that out. So people begin to listen to really good music because you've already filtered out the one that was put together by Uncle Joe and his mum. Yes. Last week. And, it's like a nursery rhyme or whatever. But
you wouldn't believe Magpie gets just inundated with hundreds of emails every day with songs from artists that he said that are just they're subpar, and a lot of it's just the way they put it together, because artists think, and again, listen to this, artists and bands, new ones, you just can't put music together just like this and then throw it out there to a radio station and say, hey, put it on, because then the radio station has to put so much time into editing and tagging and everything else that it's not worth it. And especially with like MM and Magpie and the Doctor. I mean, we do this for the artists because, number one, we think they deserve to be out there, plain and simple. The music is good. It's above great at times, and just like yours is, but it deserves to be heard. And we're not going to put anybody and everybody out there, especially when people are just submitting stuff that they've just recorded in their garage, and just say, here, put this on for us. We're not going to do it.
Yeah. So what you were talking about, some of the things that I've learned from that journey. One of the biggest things I learned while we were recording, we were doing all of our original, and more so working with John, who's just a top-notch drummer and a top-notch engineer. He knows his stuff. The thing is that when you put music together, it's a craft.
Yes.
You need to put music together with a view to the fact that it will be there way after the time you're dead.
Yes.
And people will be listening to it for a long, long time. Therefore, you need to make certain that what you put together is absolutely top notch. It needs to be the very best you can possibly afford, and more importantly, the very best you can actually do. Yes. So, and if you do it and you record it right, and there are millions of artists who do record it right, it stands the test of time. I can still listen to stuff that was recorded by Bad Company and Led Zeppelin, and it is just sublime, because it's been so well recorded and so well mixed.
Yes.
you're absolutely right. There are so many artists out there who do themselves a massive disservice because they feel that the recording part of it isn't important. And it is so important because, you know, my old mum, bless her, used to say to me, you know, first impressions count.
Yes.
And that is exactly what it is, what you're doing when you put your music out there for the very first time. The very first time you put it out there and you put it in front of people, they'll either go, or they'll go, wow.
You have that
one of the other.
You have that one chance.
You get that one chance.
And if you don't catch them,
they'll listen to more.
Yes. If it catches their attention, they will. If not, they'll flip it to another station.
And more importantly, you know, I've had, I've put it in front of people who've turned around and said, yeah, I don't like the song, but boy, you've done a really good job on the production and the way it's been recorded. And at the very least, that's what you should be putting in front of them. The very, very least is top-notch production and well recorded.
Yes.
Because if it's not a good song and it's not got good production and it's not got very well recorded, you've got no chance. And that's your one and only chance in some instances. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're the things that I've always thought. So, you know, even if it takes you, you know, maybe 2 months longer to get the song put together and recorded properly, you're far better doing that than just knocking it together and chucking it out because we can do it now and then we can move on to another one. It doesn't really work. You need to put something in front of them, because if it's really that good, they'll either come back to you and say, oh, we want to take it in the studio again and see if we can do it better, or they'll say that's good enough to go out now. And in many cases now, because of the huge advances in technology, and the way the recording techniques, I mean, Billie Eilish, what was it? That her first album was all recorded in her bedroom with her and her brother. And it's a multi-million seller. The record company touched nothing other than help with the mastering. So it just shows you that you don't necessarily need to be in the best studios in the world.
No.
You don't necessarily need to have the greatest equipment, but as long as your equipment is up there recording wise, then you've got a real chance. I mean, that's probably the biggest change. 2 changes is probably social media and the way that recording is done now, because me and John no longer need to go into a huge studio and record vocals. Don't need to go in to do, to record a reverb spring in a certain room or whatever, because it's all there digitally. That is the one thing that's probably the biggest driver of why so many artists are going, well, there's 100,000 songs a day on Spotify.
Yes, I agree.
Because it's so easy to record. But as I said before, it's about the quality of how you record, to be honest.
I agree 100%. And it's working close with each other in your production and in the band. And, you know, speaking of close with each other, you know, here's Side by Side by the Petal Falls. I like that one. I like that one a lot. So, is a lot of these are a lot of these songs that are being released right now? Are these the songs that were shelved many years ago that you're bringing back out and remastering? Because the basis of the song is still there. You've remastered them and you've added this and you've added that, but the foundation is still there.
Many of the songs. I mean, there's a few songs that were completely redone. The shell of the song was okay, but we thought that the recording quality was just not there. So we listened to the songs. Well, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that song. We just need to redo it, and it takes time. We don't feel the need to rush because we're not doing this on a deadline for anybody. Whereas again, when you're with a label, we want this by so and so. We want this. Some of it's just ridiculous, but because that's people who don't understand the process. But you are not. I wouldn't say at their beck and call, but you are there are deadlines that you've got to meet. I mean, especially if you're under a publisher, you have to produce a dozen songs a year. And when I say produce a dozen songs, that isn't just a skiff of paper. Yeah, they want a fully polished piece of music.
Whoa!
And you've got to do that. You've got to write. So that's a song a month. Yeah, 100% written, recorded, and out the door. And although it might be a demo, it still has to be sufficiently enough that a publisher can actually go and say, listen, this is good enough, because if it's just a guy on a guitar singing in the toilet, it's not going to work. And they'll just say, oh, no, we can't sell that. So a publisher is just another revenue stream, really, because he's trying to sell your songs further along the line that maybe another artist might want to listen to, another artist might want to use, or a TV studio might want to use it, whatever. So, there are unsung part of the music industry, really, publishers, and many artists that I've spoken to are really unaware of the various revenue streams that they should be looking at. I mean, so many are just not members of people like BMI or PRS or whatever. They just don't bother to join. And these guys, if things go south, you can actually get legal help from them and things like that, Right. So it's very handy for people, and obviously they register your music, so it's very difficult for other people just to copy it and you say it's mine. Mm-hmm. So it's a form of solid copyright for people. I mean, it's been a journey, really, and you're right. Some of the music. Most of the music had been in one shape or another pre-recorded, and the songs were there. But I mean, the good thing is that from being totally disinterested in the music world because I felt I'd been a bit betrayed by it, I've written a whole new album now.
That's awesome. That's great.
So which me and John are gonna start recording next year. So. And that is, it's rejuvenated all of my writing now. I'm writing some really, really good. I'm really well pleased with some of the songs I'm writing now.
That's great.
It's been a journey, Doc. I mean, it's just
well, and you're smiling and you're in a good place, and you know what? This next song is for you, Mr. Keith, because it's everything about you.
That was a nice intro.
It's hard sometimes. I try to get it in there with, kind of blend it, but sometimes it's hard.
That was spot on. That was very well done.
Well, thank you so
Very,
much.
very well done.
Well,
Yeah.
well, speaking of being spot on, what about the spotlight? Can you tell us? Because, being in the spotlight, the Petal Falls now, compared to where you guys have come from and where you dragged, the Petal Falls out of that big hole, there's still criticism and there's still negative feedback that comes for all artists, for all bands at one time or another. So how do you guys handle that? How do you handle that negative feedback and stuff?
So I have to be honest here, Doc.
Okay.
Since we came back, we when we were a band under label, we were criticised for not going to playing live. We couldn't play live because we basically didn't have any backing for it, and they didn't want us to play live. They wanted to keep our music under wraps almost. But since the music has been released, I in this world where, especially in the social media world, where people can come on completely anonymously and just write trash, just for the sake of writing trash as well, I have to say that we haven't experienced it really.
Awesome.
I think the most negative thing that I've seen wasn't even a criticism. It was a guy who didn't like our version of rock because he was a hard metal fan. Yeah. But the most critical thing he said was, you know what, if you were playing in a pub, I wouldn't walk out. Oh, thanks, man. So,
well, that's better than saying I would walk out.
Yeah. So I thought, well, actually, that's quite a compliment, because you know what, you're a real hard metal fan, and now you're telling me that you'd actually listen to what we were playing. It's been a very pleasant experience at the moment. I'm not saying that will always be the case, but I don't really take negative criticism as to heart, really.
That's good, because
I've over the years I've always got to believe that people listen to the things that they like.
Yes.
And if you don't want to listen to it, it's all right moaning about it, but the only person that really gets upset is you. I don't get upset about it because you're just telling me you don't like it. So right. Fine, that's fine. There's elements of music that I don't particularly like, but I don't go out there seeking them and telling them that they're rubbish.
Right.
It's just not what I do. Whereas in social media, that seems to be a thing.
Yes.
Where people will go and seek out something and then just rant about it, and you think, what a waste of energy, what a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
I don't take any of that to heart. I don't know about you, but I mean, because obviously you and your guys playing together, I don't know whether you've experienced that, but I can't take it seriously like that. Music is a very personal thing.
Yes.
You go and buy an album. I sort of remember, and you might remember, queuing up in the good old bad old days for a new release from a new band, queuing up to buy the vinyl.
Yes.
Yeah? And I think that these things, like getting rid of CDs, I think they're massive mistakes by the record companies. And I know from their point of view, they were worried about copyright and it was always being copied and stuff like that. But they could have come up with a much better way than what they're doing. The streaming is just awful. But to me, going out and buying that, I remember going and buying Springsteen's The River. Yeah, the River album.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going to buy it, and I sort of was getting into him a little bit, but not getting into. I wouldn't say I love the way he tells a story. I love the way he writes that. And that's the biggest thing for me about his music. I wouldn't say that every song that he writes is a winner for me, because it isn't. But again, I mean, that's a personal thing. But I love the fact that I went and queued up, bought the album, and there was so much in it. There was just tons of pictures, who played what, where and when, who wrote this, where it was recorded, what time of day it was.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
so much in the album, and from a stream you can't get none of that.
And I'm a big.
And yeah, you're probably the same. I got personally, you buy into that, didn't you?
Yeah,
You go and buy your favorite band's album, and that is a little bit of them.
Well, I'm a big vinyl collector. That's what I do when I play. I play on my turntable. I put my vinyl on and I listen to it, and I see vinyl is coming back. A lot of
it's a gradual thing, isn't it?
It is a gradual, but it is coming back. It's not like it disappeared and it's gone forever. So a lot of the artists I'm talking to are putting their music on vinyl, which is
It's
phenomenal.
something we haven't done yet, but it's something that I would dearly love to do.
But that's down the road, though, Keith. I mean, you guys have done so much, you know, and when you do that, then the doctor's going to be able to let's go dancing through the crowd to the Petal Falls.
Seemed like all afternoon, kids are kicking
That's a great track. That's a great track. So, being in the band and having just the horrendous things that have happened, and I'm still trying to process through my mind what this record label did to you guys. I mean, I'm still kind of just mystified on how they treated you. Tell us about a time back then, and maybe even now that you guys have made like a really bad, maybe a disastrous mistake, whether it was in the studio, maybe it was back when you were playing live. And
So
I know you're going to say there. I can remember so many. So tell us some.
There is a lot of stuff, but so the label said to us, we're going to put you into this studio, and it was a residential studio, so we all had to go and stay there, yeah. And they wanted to record a song that I didn't give you. I don't think I'll give it to you tonight, but it's a song called Big Pond, and they wanted to record that, and they wanted to do Everything About You, the song that we played earlier, yeah. So they gave us. So they said to, who do you want to produce it? And we gave them this huge list of people that we wanted, and we ended up with some guy who was a friend of a friend who had remixed some dance tracks. We were a rock band, and he was a friend of the Geffen family. So if I remember correctly, Geffen Records.
Yes.
But anyway, so we went to this residential, and it was a disaster. So I wanted to put. So when I'd done the demo for Everything About You, I wanted to put the organ on, and I had an organ at the studio. So I said to the guy, we need to get someone in to do it because I wasn't confident to do it myself. So anyway, that one day I couldn't be there. I had to go. I can't remember where I had to go. I think I had to do something family-wise, and I just couldn't be there to do it. And I said to the lads, okay, look, just get the guy in. It's a pretty simple thing. All he's got to do is follow the chord structure. It's a simple thing to do. Had the rest of the guys there, had the producer there, had the engineer there. Anyway, so I came back in the evening. And it was all like pretty laid out, stretched out. And I'm thinking, did we get it done? Yeah, it's done. So they played it. And I went, it's out of tune. And I went, what? I went, it's out of tune. And so they went back to the organ. And they'd actually got this session guy in to play it, and he played it all the way out through, and the whole organ hadn't been tuned; it was out of tune. So we'd spent a fortune on this guy to come in. He'd spent all day doing it, and it was useless. It was absolutely. I just went, oh. But they'd been so fired up to be in there and get it done. It was just a simple thing. You think they're all musicians. How did they not know that it was out of tune? And it was just a bizarre thing, really, when I just turned around and said, guys, how could you have not heard that? So, and then that afternoon, I think that evening, the producer's dog was sick all over the studio floor. What this doggy was?
That just topped it off, right?
It was.
My gosh.
And we only had about 5 days in this place, so we'd lost a whole day.
Oh my gosh.
And basically when I went back, so the engine, and I didn't like the producer. I had a real problem with the producer. He just wasn't really onto it. He made our drummer play all day, and then he missed the one take that he really nailed it, and then made him try and do it again. If you're in the studio with a drummer and you've got a really good drummer, you need to get him in there, and it usually takes them about an hour to get to where they need to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And any time after that hour, when they start drumming and they're in the groove with the bass player, you take after take after take after take.
Yes.
And you've got it then, haven't you? But he just kept missing it, and he just and our drummer by the end of the day was absolutely knackered. He was just so tired. and we didn't really get what we wanted out of the track. And even the engineer, Ken, I remember him telling me, saying, I can't believe you missed it. I can't believe you missed it. Oh dear. So anyway, the final mix was sent to the record company, and I got a phone call to come up and see them, and I knew what was coming. So I went to see them, and the MD just threw the tape across the 4-inch tape across. He said, "What is that pile of crap?" And I went, "I told you." I said, "I told you that the producer wasn't up to it." He went, "Well, I don't care. It's your money." Is it? It was absolutely ludicrous. And actually, they did give me a huge bill when I left the company. They gave me a massive bill for all the studio time, which I never paid them for. I must admit.
I don't think they deserved it.
Honestly, it was a.
Oh,
you live
my
through
gosh.
these things, don't you? But these things happen in life, and you just have to ride it, don't you? You know, you just have to. You know, we knew what we were doing, but they'd thrown a producer into the mix who just sort of, everybody went off at a kilter with it. He threw everybody out. We were quite a good band in the studio. I mean, it was a good tight outfit in the studio. So I was a bit bemused by why we didn't produce what we needed to produce that day or that week, because they just got really sidetracked on stuff. And it was this is the song, this is how it goes. Why are we putting a fiddle in there?
Right. Well, you don't do that in the studio anyway. You don't come in there and start recording and then start adding stuff. That's done before you even get into the studio, if it's going to be done at all.
Exactly. So the way that we always used to do it was we go in, we get the core of the music, core of the track done, and then we'd leave it. And then we'd come back and say, right, is it good enough to mix, or do we need to do something else? Yeah. And you might say, I really didn't like that guitar solo at the end there. Can I redo that little bit there? Or, can we put a pad in there now or whatever? So those types of things, again, as I was trying to reiterate earlier, it's very, very important. You as an artist are going to produce music that people will be listening for a long, long time. Yeah. Take the time to get it right.
You guys
to get it to the way that you imagined it in your head when you first wrote it.
Right. And take the time. Like he said, don't rush it. And too many artists want to put out 10 songs in a week or, 20 songs in a month. They just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And like you said earlier, Keith, is that you could have 10 songs, but they're burying 2 or 3 of the best songs out of those 10 with the 7 shitty songs. So that's the artist's job to pick out, say, these are the best we want to focus on. These are good, but these are the better ones. And
yeah, absolutely right. I mean, these days, because there isn't pressure on independent artists to release albums, that was one of the things that we sort of made a mistake with. We came back, we released a couple of singles, and then we released an album. And then recently we got involved with a guy called John Craig, who's a lovely guy. He runs the Hot from the Forge show. And he said, Keith, he said, I hate to say it, he said, but kick the albums out a little bit. You don't need to release albums all the time. he said, people don't have albums now. They have playlists. And those playlists consist of all their favorite individual tracks from various bands all over the place. People don't, I was harping on about how I loved the day when you could buy a piece of the band and people these days, because of the way the streaming industry has come up now, don't look at albums like that these days. People tend to do exactly that. Bands release singles, which is what we're doing a lot of now, because fans are not just fans for you; they're fans for 100 other bands, and they're all in their playlist.
Yep.
So I learned from that more recently, that we weren't doing ourselves justice by simply releasing a couple of singles and then chucking the album out.
Right.
Because we weren't giving people a chance to actually listen to the album, because people don't go back and listen to the albums necessarily.
Nope.
people listen to singles in particular, and they use them as part of their playlist, which is why, you know, a lot of the guys that as you were saying just now, a lot of young artists just chuck out song after song. Although another Spotify interesting stat is that just about 60% of that 80% of artists that I was talking about, haven't released 10 songs yet. So out of that 8 million artists, 60% of those artists haven't released 10 songs.
Unreal.
So, and what they mean by that is simply, it may be that you, Doc, go out and release a song, but next week you release another song under a different name, because people don't, they don't build brands as such.
I got you. Yeah.
So what they do is they release a piece of music as a different piece or featuring this, and with people don't do what I've tried to do, and probably what your band have done, and Magpie. You build a brand around your brand of music, your ideas on music, your images, the way you see things. People are more eclectic than that. They're all over the place. A lot of the artists don't release stuff constantly under their own names. I'm not saying all of them. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there is a huge chunk that don't, and consequently, they don't release consistent music because they're releasing different things.
Right.
But I don't know whether that's because there are artists out there that might release hip hop one day, and then they'll do a pop song the following day, and they don't want the two to mix. They maybe go for the genre rather than just trying to do the one thing. I mean, you'll probably find with TPF's music that you'll find a nice ballad somewhere, and then you'll have something like Somebody's to Love Me, which is just an out and out sort of rock and roll song. We don't try to change the Petal Falls as a brand to fit the type of music. This is our music, and all of that music is us.
That's the way it should be.
If it sounds a little bit different at times, then it's because we're a little bit different at times. Probably the best exponent of that was probably David Bowie. Because year on year he would change his sound, but it was always David Bowie.
Yes.
So that's probably the best exponent of that I've ever seen.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of kids out there who could probably learn from that, instead of just keep changing their names. Stick with what you've got and get people to listen to you, because all that music, no matter where it comes from, jazz, rock and roll, it's you. Yep. It's all you. So, be proud of that.
Well, your music has to have a place that it was born and it came from, and it is you, and it's your music, and you need to stay that route. So many want to change for the genre that's popular right now. Well, then let's make our music this. No, keep your music the way it is, because people will never find you if you keep switching up, changing your genres, and not being yourself. How can they connect and say, oh, that's the Petal Falls? Oh, wait a minute. Is it the Petal Falls? It's so different. Now they're doing hip hop, or now they're doing rap. And wait a minute, it's not them. It's you. Was it
Springsteen when he did Philadelphia? Do you remember the track from Philadelphia? And everyone said, "Yeah, that's an R&B song. He can't do that." Yeah, he can. He can do whatever he likes.
Right.
And it was a massive hit.
But it stayed Springsteen
singing something different, and it was like, but that's just him, isn't it? Yes. Don't try and pigeonhole and say he can't do that because he writes rock music. No, that's not it at all.
Every band out there, think about it, from the 80s, 90s up, there's always, even the heavy metal bands, there's always that soft song, that love song, that romantic song that changes totally from the headbanging music down to that other level. But it's still. What was
the extreme song that caught everybody out? What was the one that the one that streamed it? because all these women turning up at the Extreme concerts to listen to that song, and then for the rest of the night they were just pinned to the wall because it was so loud. Because they didn't realise that the Extreme are really a pretty heavy on band, a really loud band. God, what was that song? That's gonna bug me all night.
I know it's gonna be too. I'll remember after we get done, and you will too. You'll be going, exactly. That's what it is. But we all need to get on that board that rhythm train with the Petal Falls and take that ride. That one I love. Doc loves that one a lot. I love that one a lot. Um, so Keith, I mean, again, I'm still, my brain is still kind of spinning with all the stuff that you told us, and I really am hoping that the young artists and the bands really listen to this interview with Keith and the Petal Falls, because he has brought out some stuff that, to be honest with you, out of all the artists I've interviewed so far, and they're all great, all just phenomenal artists and some legends. But you, Keith, have brought out things that really, I believe, shows a light on the good, the bad, and the ugly, and especially when you get caught up in the industry, and it's treated you in the past so terribly wrong. But I believe that the saving grace for you and the Petal Falls was when your music was released back to you, and I think that was something that was meant to happen. I really do, because music like yours to be shelved and put away for so long was just injustice. I mean, it was just injustice on the music industry and the listeners themselves. So it just, again, baffles me, everything that you've been through. So tell us, Keith, where can the listeners find your music, videos, merchandise, anything else that you guys have?
So really, we've got our own YouTube channel, which is at the Petal Falls. You can buy most of the music, particularly the albums. You can go to our website, which is thepetalfalls.com, and you can just you can buy merch there. You can buy albums there. You can get all the back catalogue there, and obviously all of the major digital streaming channels, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, they're all streaming the Petal Falls. You can get it. You can get to listen to all of our music pretty easily, which is one of the fabulous things about the way. One of the things I love about the music industry right now is the accessibility that artists are being given. Although I still believe that is quite restrictive. Not so much restrictive on people like YouTube. YouTube are pretty get on there and get and do what you want to do. But because it's a publicly, you can just click on YouTube and do what you want. Yeah, you can't really do that on Spotify. You can't. You can go on there as a free user, but you get bombarded with adverts.
Yeah.
But as an artist, you don't have, in my opinion, the accessibility that many other artists are afforded. They've got a thing called Marquee, which you can't. You as an independent artist, and I would say that covers that 80% to 90% of artists won't be able to use, because you haven't got enough followers in the 4 major countries that they dictate you've got to have. And when I say major followers, I mean you've got to have, you've got to have 1,000 followers in each sort of thing. Which, when we're talking about 80% of those artists having less than 50 followers, they got no chance. So when I say it's restrictive, and it shouldn't be, if you know what I mean, Spotify should be not restricting people. It should be opening it up to people and saying, here it is, listen to it if you want to.
Yes.
And it should be able for artists should be able to turn around and if they want to, and it wouldn't, all the industries are made up of business models. If Spotify said, we want to charge you X to be able to advertise this, that should be enough. It shouldn't be, we'll charge you X, but you can't do it anyway because you ain't got enough followers in the countries that we want you to have followers in. And that's just ridiculous.
Yes.
So there are things that I love about the way the industry's gone. There are things that I think are poorly done.
Yes.
As regards to labels, I think a lot of labels, I've seen a lot of smaller labels these days, very boutique type labels who've got small rosters, who seem to have very good relationships with their artists. And again, they can go onto the Orchard and stuff like that, where they can put it out and it's difficult for all of them because back in the 90s and back in the noughties, even 15 years ago, there were so many more majors around, and now you've just got four.
Yep.
You've got four biggies who really do decide who becomes a star and who doesn't. That's the end of it. Yeah.
And that's sad.
It is sad, but, I suppose you think about someone like Ed Sheeran, yeah? Ed Sheeran is a household name now, yeah?
Yes.
Ed Sheeran spent, I think it was someone, I read in an interview somebody, he spent 8 years trying to get a deal. 8 years before he actually got anywhere. So, yeah, I would say to all of those young guys out there, in fact, all artists, if you've got any serious ambition about wanting to achieve your goals, don't give up. Yep. Because it took 8 years, and even then he had to have a helping hand from Elton John and one or two others to get him over the hurdle hump. Because the labels didn't believe that a busker could actually pull in crowds,
Yeah. Yep. Who knew, right?
Well, the problem is that most people who listen to his music did know. And that's the problem with the record industry. It's made up with people who wouldn't know what a really good song was if it bit them in the arse.
No,
they don't know. They are a bit like they're a bit like shares managers. They take a chance. They don't know, but they take a punt because the industry says they'll probably somewhere along the line it'll even out for them. But I'm pleased we've carried through. I'm pleased that so many people are beginning to listen to the music, which is just it's thrilling. That is.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything like it,
no.
Doc. So the next step for us is really to think about live, which is something that we haven't done for a long time.
Yeah.
That is. Sorry.
I was just going to say, well, that's the process you're going through right now. I mean, look again where you've come from. Look where you're heading, and look what's happening now. So, the future is yours. I mean, it's what you want to make it, and it's going to be a great future. I can tell you that right now. I mean, I must admit, you as a musician, you live with optimism. It's almost like someone you sleep with, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
But and you sort of wake up every morning. Is this going to happen today? It's going to happen today. And I haven't felt that for a very, very long time. But I must admit, more recently, over the last year, I suppose, it's slowly crept back into my life, and it's something that at the time. It made me feel up all the time.
Yep.
That feeling of, I want to do this today. I want to write this. I want to do that. I don't think there's anything quite like it. If you, as being a musician, and especially an aspiring musician who wants to get his music out there in a serious way for people to listen to, I don't think there's anything quite like it. I suppose being an actor is probably the closest you could probably get to it, winning a big part type of thing. But I don't think being an actor affects people the same way music does.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Music is something that's deep within the human soul.
Yeah.
And it's something that everybody feels in one way or another. I can speak to people who listen to my music, and I will get two different stories from the same song. Exactly.
That's the thing about music, is that it evokes the emotion and the thoughts and the feelings from everybody is different. And that's the beautiful thing about music like that, is that it can do that, and it can change somebody's life in a lot of ways. It can evoke a lot of emotions in a lot of ways, and your music does that, and that's what you want it to do. So
that's very kind of you to say that. But
it's true, though.
One of my goals actually is to try and get that emotive, those feelings from people, to think, oh, I remember something like that happening to me, or I remember that happened to someone I knew.
Yes, that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about music is that you want to do that. You want to bring them back to a time maybe 20 years ago or yesterday or whatever. But, and you can tell, Keith, that your music is basically timeless. It will be timeless. I mean, it's a genre of music that will last because of the type of music that you guys are putting out. So the Doctor sees nothing. Well, but see, that's one thing about the Doctor. I don't ever say anything, and I've said this before in my interviews. I don't ever say anything I don't mean because I don't think I have to. I could just say something else instead. But I've been doing this too long. I've been in the music industry too long. I've been in my bands too long to know good and bad music, and to know that your music is phenomenal and that it definitely needs to be put out and brought out more in the spotlight that it is now. And just know that the Doctor, MM Radio, Magpie, we're going to do that. We're going to keep pushing you guys and the rest of our artists. Well,
that is very, very nice. Very nice of you to say that. And I appreciate it enormously. I really do. It's wonderful to come on shows like this and talk to people who know music. And the good thing is you're a fantastic listener. Yeah, you're a very good interviewer, actually, because you listen well, and then you come back with your own analogies and your own part of the things that have affected you. So when you speak to you, it's almost like a bit of a kindred spirit, really. So it's a great thing that if you do that through all of your interviews, you're going to have a real good archive of some really excellent interviews from some really astonishing indie artists.
Well, thank you.
And I'm a particular admirer of Eric's anyway, because Magpie is he's just a one-off, mate. He's just a really one-off guy. So and M&M Radio is something that's just come from nothing, and all that hard work is just people putting the time and the love into it, if you know what I mean.
Well, it is. And
it's come from, the thing is, it's come from nothing. It's come from nowhere. It's I want to do a radio station, and I want all these things, and it's all the things that many people have asked for in other stations.
Exactly.
Which is just put together and said, because all these people are asking for this, why don't we put it all in? More power to your elbow. I think it's fabulous what you're doing.
Well, thank you. All you listeners, I hope you've been listening to Keith, because again, phenomenal information given to you guys from a man that's been there, that's been in the hole, has come out, and he's rising on top, which he will, and the band will again. And go check him out, please. Go search him. You know where to find them. Go check their music out, because it's phenomenal music. So that's the Doctor's prescription for today. At least 3 times daily, I want you guys to go listen to the Petal Falls, because they're awesome. So the Doctor wants
thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, Keith. The Doctor wants to thank Keith with the Petal Falls for joining him today. I definitely had a great time with you, Keith, and I'm glad that you did too. And I want to thank again Keith and the Petal Falls. I want to give big shout out to MM Radio, Magpie, Sally, my guru tech Matt Rustin for keeping the Doctor on the air. And till next Friday, guys, be kind to each other and love. And the Doctor's out. Keep on rocking. Keith and the Doctor is out of the building. Take care now.
Good night.
Bands, the good, bad, and the ugly with Dr. Dog on MM, the show where we get real about the ups and downs of band life.
To infinity and tastiness with MM Radio.